Hi guys, today we are talking about interview in personnel selection, the use of interview technique in personnel selection. As we know, it's a very important aspect of personnel selection. That is why we are talking about it. So it has to do with a systematic way of obtaining a personal information from face-to-face interaction with the client, with the employee or potential employees, we can say. Yes, it may be verbal, it may be oral, should I say verbal or non-verbal, right? These verbal, non-verbal informations, we obtain them from interview. It is an important technique in psychological assessment, very important, because it enables psychologists to obtain information about a client or an applicant. It is the oldest and most time the widely used, yes, but widely used selection technique. Interviews, it's about two-way, like I said initially, face-to-face activity between the interviewer and the interviewee, right? The action of the interviewer and the interviewee, or say the client, now the applicant, they influence each other. Yes, the way you dress and come in, the interviewer says, okay, your CV. In fact, sometimes you will notice that the client's CV may even be intimidating the interviewer sometimes, right? So, and right, the questions are in interview are often verbally, starting from the key ones to more or less relevant ones, just from general to specific ones, and information are collected verbally most times. And in interview technique or interview section, both the non-verbal cues are very important. They inform the outcome of that interview, right? Oh, right. So some of these non-verbal cues include movement of the body, such as hand movement, the way you do your hand gestures, the proxemics, how you position yourself and sit or lying on the table or sitting upright and everything. Other paralinguistics and cues such as the tone of your voice, the pitch, yes, the rate of speaking, how fast you are or anything, right? Yeah, etc. Interviews are used in planning for job selection and recruitment. We have types like structured and unstructured, but that's not the one we'll be looking at. But we know we have structured interview, unstructured interview, semi-structured. So in structured interview, if I may want to highlight that, the questions to be asked are stipulated. Yes, but in unstructured, the questions to be asked can just come as the interview goes on. Maybe the client responds, yes, I've worked there and I've worked the other place. He said, okay, so tell me, why did you leave there? What happened? Okay, one of my in-laws or one of my friends, a brother, went to interview and in Globacom, and then what is your portfolio? And was like, okay, master's in Anambra State University, undergraduate BSc biochemistry, and then master's in business administration in Singapore. And ooh, MBA, I haven't done mine. Okay, so that kind of thing, right? You see, so on the other way around, we have semi structured interview again. So in this regard, both structured and unstructured, the questions are stipulated, but if there is a need to digress to some leading topics that the client might have brought out, you can also discuss that. So the manner of interpretation and scoring are always dependent, right, or subjective. So the types includes, apart from the structured, semi-structured, and unstructured, we have the oral interviews, individual interview, group interview, right? So we by the face value, we know the meaning of those oral interview, the individual or group interview, right? So some of the advantages of interview technique in selection and placement includes: one, almost everyone, every organization use this, in the sense not only for selection but even for appraisal, for promotion, for counseling, for research. Yes. Two, it permits assessment of information, to get information, to assess several areas to which objective tests has not given any valid or not been able to tap into, right? Also, interview technique also allows this full access to biography, the biodata of your client, right? It also allows the combination of data to arrive, like both the, when we say combination of data, we mean both verbal and non-verbal cue, so to reach a conclusion, right? In personnel psychology, it is also not used only as selection procedure, but also in conducting their attitude surveys. You can see what they think about this situation, you can see what they are thinking, and all of this helps to inform the workers and managers to maybe know if they'll come up with any supervisory functions, and to help the quality of job output and another thing, right? The limitations of interview includes lack of job relatedness, right? You know, that moment they're asking you who was your previous employer, how many years experience, does this have anything to do with your expatriate, your intelligence? Does it have to, you know, oftentimes the interview, all the questions are so job unrelated, right? That's one of the limitation. And again, it's subjectivity. Sometimes, you know, your evaluation may be dependent on how the interviewer perceive you or want to give score you. That objectivity is not really top notch in that. Then sometimes primacy, there is a limitation we call primacy effect. In this situation, it's almost like a bias in the situation, interviewer bias in the situation that, oh, that first person that entered did well and everything. Oh, this is the first person that came in, so I may have to take cognizance. We have what we call contrast effect. You may sit before a client or an interviewer, and you see that you get like we said, the interviewer and the client, they influence each other. You see that this person sitting beside you may be opposite of all you represent, and that would be a problem. Either in respect to the client may not do well because of that, and in respect to the interviewer, he or she may not be able to, or may not be willing to also give a rather positive remark about the interviewee because of that contrast effect. We have those similarities. At that moment you saw somebody, there's interviewee similarities. You guys relate, and you can see yourself in the person, your visions, your excitements, and everything. Oh, I think this is good to go and everything, because he or she holds similar values as yours. And those non-verbal questions, non-verbal cues that we use most times also can be misinterpreted. So these are some of the limitations of interview technique, and this is the size of this video, the interview in selection and placement of personnel in organizations. Thank you, and see you in the next video.